Good morning, everyone. Really thrilled that you're able to join us this morning. The way that these workshops came about, very briefly, is that in our consulting practice, we were seeing a galloping set of requests for help with fundraising. And so we approached BSK and told them, boy, it looks like a lot of organizations are really interested in fundraising. Can we offer some opportunities? And BSK said yes. And we sent out a survey to over 100 organizations asking what kind of fundraising help would be most supportive to you. And these two sessions are based on the most requested elements of fundraising that people in nonprofits ask for help with. So we're super excited to be able to deliver and host opportunities to learn about fundraising exactly in the elements that our community partners are most interested in. So it's a great honor for us to be able to participate. So thanks to all of you for being here today. Thanks to BSK for supporting this. A little quick bit, Betsy, if you could go to the next slide about our team. RHL Consulting is about 13 years old, and we support local and national and some international organizations in strategic planning, vision, mission, values identification, changing the culture of an organization to a race equity culture, and IT support from Mamadou and our website team, and communications. So that sort of, and we coach executives. So that's sort of our host of work that we love to do. And there are four of us from our team here today. Betsy Archambault is your host and our key fundraiser. Jing Fong is on the call and going to be helping you with the chat and always behind the scenes. And Mamadou Jai is our IT person who, if you have any technical issues at all, please reach out to Mamadou. So Betsy, Jing, Mamadou, an introduction for each of you.
I will start. Hello, good morning. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And I'm super excited to spend the next couple hours with you talking about fundraising. Jing?
Good morning. Nice to see everybody. And for those who were in session one, nice to see you again. I'll be monitoring the chat. So if there are any key questions or anything you need, I will be your person.
Morning, this is Mamadou. I'm the IT guy. I'm very happy to be here today with you. It's a great honor. So have a good session.
All right. Well, with that, just a couple more housekeeping things. When you can rename yourself and put your pronouns and your organization if you feel comfortable with doing that. Please keep yourself on mute just to minimize background noise, since a lot of us still are working remotely. Part of this, when Roxanne was talking about why we decided to do this with BSK, one of the biggest asks was about grant prospecting. And so, Roxanne, could you put into the chat right now the link to the grant prospecting form?
I sure will.
Thank you. And so BSK, this is an amazing gift from BSK. This form, if you fill it out, it is an opportunity to receive a customized grant prospecting list, right? And so what does that mean? It means that I will actually conduct really specific research for you for a project or a general operating, and then I will provide you with a list of potential funders, specific grant opportunities, and then grant deadlines so you can plan and prioritize. So Roxanne will actually share this link a couple different times during the course of this. And if you would fill it out, if that seems like something that you would like, then I will get back with you to confirm that I have it. And we can talk about grant prospecting a little bit later. And we wanted to share it now just in case people have to pop out early. We want everyone to be able to have all of the different opportunities that are available. So thank you. And oopsie, I guess I thought I could do it like that. Here are some agreements for the day. And they're just basic agreements. If you would like to put a thumbs up as part of your reaction in your video share to say that you agree with these, and in the chat, if you have other agreements that you would like to put in there, please do so. We want this to be a very safe space, a space where all questions are good questions, and a place to be able to learn and wonder with curiosity about all of these things. So we have a pretty darn packed agenda today, and we are probably going to be moving pretty fast. And I 100% promise that all of these items relate and build on each other, and then also build on the messaging that you learned if you participated in session 1 last week with Jing and Roxanne. So it is kind of a culmination. And if you were not able to participate last week in session 1, it's okay. This can also stand on its own. And let's also keep in mind that different organizations are at different places in their own fundraising journey. Some of this might be brand new to folks, and that's wonderful. Some of this might be just a reminder to folks. And if that's the case, just still take it in and think, who can I share this with? Do I have new board members or new volunteers that also might find this stuff interesting? Because in the end, that's also what builds a culture of philanthropy. So here we go. Why give? Mamadou, I'm going to have you put people in breakout rooms in just a minute, just as a heads up. So I would like everyone to go into a breakout room for 5 minutes. And I want you to talk about why you give. You don't have to share how much you give or to whom you give, but why do you give? And answer honestly, really just focus on the why, just as a let's get the juices going here. So Mamadou, can you pop people into breakout rooms, please, for 5 minutes? And then when we come back, we will debrief.
Mamadou, would you please pause the recording?
Perfect. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good first little breakout room to really start thinking about fundraising. So in the chat, or if you want to say something out loud, please put up your hand and Roxanne can identify you. But in the chat, start talking about, tell me why you give. Last week, we talked about the messaging about what, but today's why. And so Roxanne, can you read some of the things that are coming up in the chat?
Nothing yet.
But I never received them, and I sent so many emails, but I have
A way to live my values, connections to the broader community.
and they
Absolutely.
say that I will email to the phone right now.
A sense of collective impact.
Perfect.
That is the last time I because
Also, just a reminder, keep yourself on mute to reduce any background noise.
blessed to receive, or blessed to give more than to receive. It does my heart good and to see the change I want to see. These are lovely.
These are lovely.
Respect and growth. Find out what other orgs like mine are doing to connect with their donors.
Yeah, I do that too.
A way to make things happen you care about. I said, I didn't read that correctly. A way to make the things you care about happen.
Yes.
Wanting to be connected to a greater purpose bigger than yourself.
Oh my
Express
God.
a greater human sentience and that rises oh, Amir, of course. Express a greater human sentience that rises above systems of oppression and exploitation. Thank you. I am the change. Yeah, I added thank you. Yeah.
I am the change.
I am the change.
So these
rises
are
above the systems and exploitation. Naming it. Yeah.
These are amazing. So thank you for all of these.
More than to receive. These are beautiful.
A couple more that I wanted to put out there, because I think that you all have really captured this in an amazing way, is that a lot of people give because they were asked, right? I mean, absolutely, values and goals and community. And a lot of people who might not really be involved in a lot of things, or might not know a lot of things that are going on in the community, give because they're asked, and they were asked by somebody that they know. They feel super connected with someone who either is a champion for the cause or who has been a participant in a program. Some people also just want to participate in something bigger than themselves, and making a donation is a really easy way to do that. And so in some ways, it's like a value for value exchange, right? Because in a lot of just general transactions, like you go to the grocery store, the buyer receives something for what you buy, coffee, a book. And when people give to nonprofits, their gifts, their generosity helps build a stronger community, and they feel good about themselves. There is a joy in giving. And then they see the value of their efforts made possible by their support. And so I know that there are a lot of organizations, a lot of people that think about fundraising kind of in the scarcity mindset. It's like, I'm begging. And I want to get rid of that completely, because donors absolutely get something in return. And it is tangible, it's scientific, it's joy. So thank you for sharing all of those things. Okay.
Betsy, can I just say that there are others, there were other beautiful reasons that people put into the chat that I didn't get to. So for people that, if you want to continue reading, to check the chat.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you.
Roxanne, you could also make a list of these as well that we can share out later. That could be really fun, even to be able to share with fundraising committees or boards to get different ideas about why people give.
Betsy, I'm putting that together from the chat right now. So
thank you.
Off the list. And just as an aside, Roxanne, the link that you put in about the grant form is not working. So that will need to be fixed. And for folks who are looking for that, we'll get you a link that works.
Yes, and that might have to be me. So the next time I take a pause, I might stop sharing my screen and make sure that I I'll pull up the link again. Okay. So in just a few minutes, I will do that. Okay. So fun fundraising facts, because I love these. These are very fun for me. Fundraising is not a series of transactions. It is really based in relationships. And I do want to say that, most philanthropy comes from individuals. About 80% is given by individuals. And this is the case literally year after year. more households than not give. And so it's not just wealthy households, it's everybody. A lot of people give to many organizations. People give because they're asked. There have been real, true academic studies on this. And the number one reason that people don't give is that nobody asked. The most effective way is face-to-face. It's all about relationships, not just asking for money. This means identifying donors, cultivating them, asking for support, thanking them for giving, updating them on progress, and involving them in your work. Okay, finding the donors. Roxanne, could you put in the chat the files that we have for this session?
I did, and I'll drop it in again. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So in there is a document called Prospect Identification. So since we already know that the majority of giving is done by individuals, let's look at how we find these folks. How do we find the people to ask for money? Do you ever think or hear, I don't know anyone who has money to give? Yeah, I mean, me too. And I'm going to give you 2 different activities that you can do with your board and staff that will help you expand the pool of prospective donors. So there are 3 big things that we need to keep in mind when we are thinking about prospects. Access. Do they already have a relationship with any of our board members, staff, donors, volunteers? Are they contributing any money or time or both to us at present? Belief. Do they care about our issues or programs or the community who benefits from collective work? And capacity. Are they charitable? Do you know if they give to other orgs? So if you look at the prospect identification form, it is just a form with all sorts of different things that you can take back to your organization, make copies of it, and you can put a yes, a no, a question mark in each space, okay? And so you can put people in all of your different social circles, friends at work, who you hang out in your free time, who do you hang out with during family time or community time, who do you have dinner or coffee breaks with, or go to the movies. I mean, when going to movies was a thing. Now you can see who also might be missing. And one of the wonderful things about this sheet is it really helps people think about the true richness of your own personal social networks. It's pretty amazing. So I think that the belief category is one of the most important. For instance, I could be your best friend and you know that I give to nonprofits. And if you are an organization that makes sweaters for chickens, and this really truly was a thing where I lived once, and I'm only interested in supporting education for kids, we're probably not a match in terms of what we want to give to, right? Especially if you know that all of the other organizations that I give to, between my 4 and 10 organizations that I support education and not sweaters for chickens, okay? And I thought the sweaters for chickens was a cute little thing. And if sweaters for chickens is the thing, then absolutely, there are people for every organization. So how do we find an achievable goal? You also have this in your packet. It is called Individual Donor Goal Worksheet. And I'm going to give you just a couple minutes of personal work, during which time I will also stop sharing and find that correct link. So pop out a pen and a paper, and I will give you a couple minutes to answer these questions and do the math. Okay. So how many staff and board members do you have? How many volunteers do you have? On average, how many personal contacts will each of number 1 and number 2 have? Okay. Now add 1 and 2, multiply by 3. And now you have an absolutely attainable goal for identifying new donors. I'm going to give you 2 minutes here, and I'm going to stop my share so I can pull up that link. So when you have this number, put it in the chat. And Roxanne, can you start reading out what people's achievable goals are when they start popping into the chat?
Absolutely. And Betsy, would you leave your leave Zoom on just in case, because you have the screen sharing is from your computer?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
Zoom is going to be on. I'm just going to pop over to my Google Forms.
Great, thanks.
Would it be possible to put the equation again in just the chat?
Yes, one moment.
Or say it out loud again? Thank you.
Yes, hold on. I'm going to, 1 second, please. Put up the Google Doc again. Please let me know if that works. I'm going to start sharing again. Here we go.
Great, thanks.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there's someone with all a 97.
That is wonderful.
That's huge. $225.
Woo-hoo!
90 to 150 in the KCDRC. Awesome, Michelle.
I'm not seeing the formula at all on the chat.
It is
On the
slide.
screen. Can you see, do you have an opportunity?
Now
to
I do.
see your
Sorry, now I do. Sorry, I was looking in the chat.
No worries, no worries. $55 from Kelly. Wow. It's a surprising number of donors, isn't it, that you get to very quickly when you think about it in this way. It's a helpful formula.
Okay. Also, everyone will be getting a copy of
42.
these slides. And so you can take all of this back to your organizations, and they're fun little exercises that people can do instead of just wondering, where are the donors? Who are they? It's really easy to then have a goal that you can try to reach, which is really wonderful for tracking your success with fundraising, right? Does anyone have any questions at this point? I know that we've been just kind of zipping along. Okay. So we are going to continue along. I hope you found that to be helpful or illuminating, or at least interesting about achievable individual donor goals. So donor retention. I feel super strongly about donor retention. And I love all of this, honestly. So now that we know how to find donors, we're going to talk about donor retention. And it's big and it's huge and it sounds scary. And donor retention is how many donors give to your organization after their first gift. Okay. So retaining donors is one of the most important things that you can do. And why? Well, because it costs a lot more money to get a new donor than to keep a donor. And this is the number one strategy that you will use to move a one-time donor to a major donor. Okay. And retaining donors is also a really good way to know that you have folks primed and ready for things like a year-end campaign or community giving days like Giving Tuesday, which is going to be coming up here in a couple months or a month and a half about. Okay. So donor retention, you're building relationships with people who really care. You're receiving bigger donations because after the first gift, you can always segment your things and say, okay, you gave $25 in August. Would you be willing to double that in October to make even bigger impact? It's a really great way. Your mission has a strong base if you want to do major donor or capital campaign. And this one, it really appeals to the financial folks when you're talking about your bottom line of fundraising, because a lot of budgets don't actually have fundraising as a budget line. And I mean, that is what it is. And it's important to really think about because it costs 5 times more to acquire a new donor than it does to retain a donor. Please excuse the art. I drew this. So this is just a little visualization. So if you have 10 new donors, 2 will continue to give, right? That means that you are losing 7 donors by the next time that you ask. That's big. It's depressing. And this is how it is for almost every organization in the United States, almost year after year. Okay. That said, if you get a person to give a second gift, then you have an existing donor whose chances of giving to you a third gift is 60%. That means 6 out of 10 people. So you really want to be able to move your people from 2 out of 10 to 6 out of 10, right? I mean, because even think about it. If each of those 10 people were giving $10, you get $20 of new donors, and then you would get $60 of existing donors. And so the math really makes sense. And if anyone is ever interested in the super kind of geeky fundraising math with donors and new donors and retaining donors with certain amount of gifts, I actually have spreadsheets for this that I really like because it can give you a much better projection of what you need to do even during the year or even for like a 5-year plan. If donor math sounds exciting to you, I'm more than happy to chat about it. I also know that it sounds like, oh dear, Betsy, I really don't want to do that, but I'll take your little slide with your stick figures. Okay, so remember, your first priority should be retaining your current donors. Woo! And this is the pipeline to major donors. So remember, if you don't retain them, you lose them. Okay, and how in the heck do you do it? This is the virtuous circle. Okay. Sorry, I just had something fall. I will reference the virtuous circle a lot. Okay, print this out. It is from the Better Fundraising Company. They put this out and everyone was like, oh my gosh, yes, amazing. You will see this a lot of different places. Okay. You can also ask your fundraising committee and your board to memorize it. Ask, thank, report, repeat. Okay. Ask, thank, report, repeat. So we're going to start with thank. Okay. Rather than the asking. So thanking can be a wonderful way to build a relationship with a donor and retain a donor. Okay. The best practice within fundraising is to thank a donor within 48 hours. Okay. That means that you can also have handwritten cards at the ready to send out as soon as you receive a gift. Okay. This is a wonderful way to get volunteers or to get board members who are hesitant about fundraising involved, because thanking absolutely has to happen, absolutely is part of the process of fundraising, right? So you can be super creative here. These are 2 thank yous that I did this month for a nonprofit that I work with. This is my dog, Cirrus, and we receive a monthly donation from a community member named Ben. And so I was at the grocery store and I just saw this balloon and I thought that would be a fun and different way to say thank you. And I would say don't buy a metallic balloon because I had a really hard time not getting all sorts of bizarre shadows all over. But I tied it to my dog because I also know that Ben really likes dogs. And I know this because of some of the different, thank you relationships that we have had built. Another one to Ben, I bought a whole bunch of superhero stickers one day when I was at Target, right? Kapow, boom. And so then I wrote, you are a donor superhero. And these, of course, are more fun, a little bit more lighthearted thank yous. And they might not be appropriate for your organization, and they really might be. And so you also have to keep in mind that when you get a donation for over $250, you are absolutely required by law to send out the tax thank you with really specific language. And if you need that language, I would be more than happy to share that with you. And you just have to make sure that you put things like the amount, the day, how you receive the donation, that you have to put your nonprofit tax ID on it. And you also have to state that there were no goods or services shared for this donation. Okay. So
Betsy, how about we share a letter with people after when they receive the recording and the slides from today? How about we add an example letter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those are much more formal. They're not as fun. They're not really relationship-y. And there are absolutely some other things, that are. Okay. So, Mamadou, I would like you to put people in breakout rooms this time for 8 minutes. Okay. And what you are going to do in your breakout room is it is going to be your job to develop a list of 26 different ways to thank a donor, A through Z. Okay. So 1 representing every letter of the alphabet. You can have somebody in your group write them down, and then we will come back and share. So, for example, B, balloon, right? Or G, homemade grape jelly, if you do something at markets. right? Or, Z, a trip to the zoo with, with your board president, or, if you have youth that interact with folks, like how you can thank people and then also build the relationship and also potentially show your values. Does that make sense to everybody?
Can I give you an example? I donate to Real Rent Duwamish and on a regular monthly subscription. And last week they sent to all of the people who donate to them a ticket to the Mariners game, and you could stop by the Longhouse and pick up swag if you wanted it. And everybody could sit together so that there would be camaraderie around, yay, we all donate to Real Rent Duwamish, and just a really magnanimous way of thanking all of their monthly subscribers, monthly donors. It's very cool.
That is cool. All right, so let's do it. And these don't have to be like 100% real things. They can just be dreamy things, because sometimes those dreamy things create other ideas for other people, like the popcorn ideas. So feel free to just dream or be silly, because some of those things might come back in a different iteration of something that you might actually really want to do. All right, let's go into a breakout room. So how did it go?
T for torturous. It's so hard to do. It's like, we were like, what we do for N or Q for crying out loud. So I digress.
It's okay.
Treat them like a queen, Amir.
Yep. Yeah, or buy them a coffee so they can have some quiet time. You never know.
Some good ideas are coming into the chat.
Yeah, Roxanne, can you read some of those, please?
Yeah. Group 7 says A for apple pie, B for baking, chocolate chip cookies or custom coffee cups, debate for D, evening of eating, frisbee, game night, hot tubbing, invites to programming, jam sesh, kickball with the kids, listening session, message, night of donor appreciation, olive oil tasting, phone call, quality time for Q. Whoa.
Quality time.
S for storm. Thank you cards with mission on the back and a photo montage of youth we serve. Ooh. Nice work, people. Virtual gala for V.
Yes. So did you think of any, or have you heard any that might be a match for your organization or a match for certain donors? Just like my balloon dog for Ben. Well, I hope you did. Because, in the end, organizations really have to thank everybody, individual donors and foundations, corporations, government. And it should all be based in relationship or relationship building, right? And everyone deserves a thank you, because that also makes people feel really good. They feel really amazing when they give, and then they get the thank you and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel good again because I made a difference, because people are recognizing this, right? And when you are doing these thank yous, think back to everything that Roxanne and Jing were saying in session 1 about your impact language, because you can absolutely pepper that into all of them to make people really understand the impact that they are having. Okay.
Betsy?
Yes, Amir.
Hi, it's Amir. Can I just jump in here? There was one thing that showed up from my development director seat. So we have like donor, all of our donors are different, obviously, but we have like really, to make it streamlined, 2 different kinds of donors. So we have like a early Microsoft retiree kind of donor, and then we have like a woman who's an executive in corporations, and she only donates to girls programs, but she's working class.
Okay.
And so, for example, the early Microsoft retiree will not accept gifts that he would perceive as costing the organization. So those ways of saying thank you, you have to know who you are, who your audience is. Because if I gave this guy something that costs $1,000, he would be actually very upset with us. So.
Well, yes. And I think that probably most people would. I've worked with donors before who were like, do not even send me a thank you in the mail. I do not want you saving or spending that money on a stamp. Right. And the absolute best way to know this is, I mean, like, you know, Amir, like through the relationship, like knowing what is going on. But then also you can ask your donors. For some monthly donors, they just say, can you just thank me once a year, just with a little card? And you can make it a beautiful card with, you know, handwriting, and everyone is saying thank you. And so this is also just like Amir was saying, knowing what's appropriate for your organization and with each individual donor. So it's not so transactional. It really is based in the relationship. So
there's
thank
one
you
more,
for-
Betsy, and I'll
Yeah.
step down. This is the one that just really highlights your point, Betsy. It made my skin crawl because I was didn't know how to respond to it. So we have one donor who, of course, will remain anonymous, who was bullied as a young boy. And so I asked him for his new address so that I could send him a handwritten thank you letter. And he said, please don't send me a handwritten letter because I was bullied as a kid, to write handwritten letters. And I was not ready for that. So I was like, what the hell? So really knowing your audience, could you imagine if I sent him a handwritten letter? And this is a millionaire.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, everybody is different. I mean, and everyone has different triggers as well. And things that they care a lot about, which is sometimes why they're donors to your organizations. Thank you, Amir. That's pretty powerful. Pretty powerful.
Well, I also think we aren't expected to divine how people want to be thanked. So I ask people.
Yeah.
And then I make note of it and keep it with my list of donors. And as I keep track of their donations, I also keep track of how I've thanked them in the past and how they commented on that, how they felt about that, and how they really want to be thanked and want to be brought in. Some people really want to be brought into the organization, given chances to volunteer, to co-host something and really be feel like they're part of the team. And other people want to be, arm's length. Let me send you some gifts and don't spend your time on me, spend your time on doing the great work. So I think to the point of this segment of the workshop is really about when you have a relationship with someone, you know them and you know what they want. So it's a building toward that relationship and then doing what's appropriate for that person. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Roxanne. 100%. Another way that you can actually find this out, that with big results, is if you make a thank you call. Like if you just can't get thank you letters out the door because you're in the middle of year-end giving and you have all these grants due and reporting due, and and somebody has gone on maternity leave and somebody has a sick parent, and you're just, oh my gosh, calling. You might get their voicemail, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be a person-to-person chat, but if you call within 48 hours, people are 4 times more likely to give again. And that is big results, right? And that completely relates back to the donor retention as well. And I have the source down here for Tom Ahern. If any of you are super interested in fundraising books, oh boy, do I have like a list of like my favorites for you if you're interested. And Tom Ahern is a fundraising fantastic fundraising person. Really, pick up something by him. You will not be sorry. So the next thing I want to show you is a way to, especially during this virtual age that we're living in with COVID, is a way to help put faces to names when you are thanking people. And I'm not changing the slide yet because I don't know if it'll just start playing immediately or if I'll have to stop it in the middle. So this is a software called BombBomb, and it is free to nonprofits. You just have to apply, and then you can send it in an email. So you open up an email, you click the BombBomb icon, and then it videos something for you. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Hi, Lucy. Good morning. I just opened my email and saw that you made a donation, and it made my day. So thank you. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful supporter of sisterhood. So I really love BombBomb. It tells you exactly, like, you open up your email and it's like, would you like to listen to this 26-second message? And so you're not, when you open up an email, you're like, oh dear, this is going to be a 5-minute long pitch for X, Y, or Z. You can say, oh my gosh, this is fun. And you can even hold up a piece of paper, sometimes, so they really know it's personalized. This is not a good example, but it can be like, Roxanne written on it or whatever. So people really know that it is 100% personalized for them. And it's amazing when you start doing this, the responses you get. Sometimes it has literally nothing to do with the gift. It will be, you were wearing a running sweatshirt. I run too. That's really cool. You're like, oh, okay. And so now you also know something else about your donor, which is fun for when you do outreach for them again. So all of these stewardship strategies can be used for everybody, for individual donors, foundations, major donors. And I even send these to my board members as well, and volunteers, because people really do like feeling appreciated and being thanked. So this was not originally part of, hi, there we go, my presentation. And I couldn't not include this. I did not make this up. This came to me last week. To somebody who I had sent a little picture, with my Kapow stickers and a little BombBomb. Over many years, I have contributed generally small amounts to various charities and received formal thank you receipt. And often they include another request for more money in addition to what I just donated. I have never received a video clip like the one you sent me recently in the cute and beautiful card. To me, your thank you was so meaningful. I felt a warm glow that my donation was really appreciated and helpful. I feel it exemplifies the type of organization and the people in this organization that I want to support. I loved it, and it has made a very positive impression on me. So, so with BombBomb, I can actually see how many times this person watched the video. And this person watched my little 26-second video 5 different times. And I know that for all of you out there, receiving a little letter like this is like, I'm going to read this 5 times, because no one ever writes to me saying, thank you for your thank you. That's, it's amazing. And 100%, I think that this person will continue being a donor because of the stewardship that we put in for them. So does anyone have any questions on thanking or stewardship before we move on? And Roxanne and Jing, I will have to have you tell me because I can't see the chat currently.
Can I ask something real quick?
Yes.
So we are a small organization that has entirely been grant funded so far, and we have very few donors. And I'm really, I did, your formulas just doesn't get us very far at the beginning because we are so small. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I like the way to develop and retain that you have, but I'm just wondering if there are any more, if you have more information about how to cultivate individual donors to begin with, and I'll take it offline here.
I think that's a wonderful question. And I mean, I would say going back to the little formulas, start talking to the people that you know and board and volunteers. Those are the best people because they definitely have the access to your organization. You can start also by putting out a little newsletter, and your ask to people can be, can you share this with 2 people, right? Or you can start doing a little bit more, or Jing, I don't know if you want to pop in here to talk about how to market yourselves in more broad ways to be able to get more donors. But it really is kind of about letting people know who you are. If you have a local newspaper that you could do a little editorial or a short story, a radio spot. But really, the personal relationships are what will grow your base. And I think a lot of people here also have experience with this. And so if anyone who is a participant here wants to pop in and talk, I would love to hear their perspectives as well. Anybody, or Jing or Roxanne, do you want to pop in and talk about acquiring new donors? I know it can be absolutely daunting.
Yeah, I was thinking about an organization, a tiny community-based organization that I'm on the board of. We were surprised the first time we did Give Big, how many new donors we attracted. People that didn't even live in our area were just excited by what we were doing. And so we found that every time we do Give Big or Giving Tuesday, we end up with additional new donors. So that can be an relatively easy way.
Okay, and I see that somebody raised their hand. Tanya?
Yeah, one idea would be to have a local newspaper or someone from the media write an article on what you are doing in the community, and then have a quick link to, to your info, and then you can follow up with ways that they could give. Could even be QR codes in places that frequent the people that you're serving or who they care about. We recently put our donors into tiers and sent out surveys to find out what they care about. And that has been huge because we are planning our virtual fundraiser. So we want to know what stories that we should be sharing.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I wanted to add to what Tanya said, and while you can identify who your potential donors might be, you should have your messaging and your story said well. And having good photos says a lot also, because a photo can take the place or replace something that you can say in 500 words. So have all those tools ready to use when you're looking at potential donors and looking at the variety of outlets that will resonate with them the best.
Thank you. Thank you. I know acquiring donors, it's huge. It's probably the bigger thing before you even get to thanking or reporting. And it definitely takes a lot of work and a lot of conversation about how to grow relationships, for sure. I'm going to move on here to, so we ask, we thank, we report. Yes, reporting. Okay. We're going to go through reporting pretty quickly, I think. So in order to report, we want to tell our donors what their money went to. Tie it back into your core purpose that you worked on with Jing and Roxanne, and your action and impact. Show them your impact. Okay, you can totally be creative here as well, and know your impact. If you're not measuring impact, you should definitely start. And you can measure it in all sorts of different, qualitative and quantitative ways. It is fundraising scientifically better to show a photo of a person, especially a photo of a person like straight on. And I also know that many of you have programs where you protect privacy and keep confidentiality. Okay. And so in those cases, you absolutely cannot do that unless you're using stock photos, which sometimes doesn't seem genuine, right? And so in that case, you have to do something else. Right here on this slide is an art project that 10-year-olds created. You can tell your donors about the connections that they made with each other and with nature as they were creating art that brought joy to not only to the youth that were doing it, but to the community members who got to enjoy and be touched by the art, right? And so you can say things, like your lovely donation not only bought craft supplies, it instilled a love of the arts, right? This nature-themed mandala it celebrates friendship, connections, and unexpected joys of togetherness, right? And so for reporting, again, you can do a little bomb. You can send a photo with something on the back talking about their impact. A wonderful way to do that is also through a quarterly newsletter. You can share stories and quotes. I'm a big fan of quotes. Collect them and ask them if you can use them all the time. These are wonderful for grants as well, for year-end fundraising, for reporting, when you can have people say, this program touched my heart, right? Or this program did X, Y, or Z impact, and you have it in somebody else's words, which is wonderful because you as the development team, executive director, program director can say these things all day long. And a lot of times it's the messenger that matters. And so it's a really fun thing to do for reporting. And everyone has a different way of reporting that, just like we were talking about with thanking, is completely specific to your organization. And it's also very, very important because when you're retaining donors and when you're asking for money, there are a lot of folks out there, they're like, oh my gosh, we've already asked. And you can ask as many times as you want, as long as you thank and report. Repeat. Ask, thank, report. Repeat. And we'll get into that a little bit more and how to plan that out when we talk about calendars in a little bit. But for right now, that was reporting. Major donors. Okay. A lot of people want to know about major donors and how to get major donors. And so there's no part of a talk on individual giving that would be complete without talking about them, right? You might have really well-intentioned people within your organization or on your board who say things like, can't you just call, and then put in the name of the celebrity of the moment, Bill Gates, Mackenzie Scott, Oprah, right? I've heard these things a million times, and I'm sure you have too. Or I just don't like fundraising. So can't you just go out and get a major donor this week? You're like, wow, okay. And so all of those things are like, they're wonderful ideas, and they're not based even a little bit within the foundation of fundraising, which is relationships, right? Having that kind of transactional, just go out and get a major donor and then we won't talk to them again, is not the thing. It is completely transactional. You're never going to get another donation from them. And all of that is based in some pretty magical thinking. Okay. So major donors, where are they? How do I find them? Especially if you're new and you don't have a big donor base yet. And the bad news is that it does take work. And it's very rare just to get a major donor on the first go, right? There's not really a list of really wealthy people that are interested in your cause. There are, of course, wealth calculators that you can buy, especially in some CRMs and donor management tools, right? And going back to the access, belief, and capacity, then they have the capacity, but do they have any kind of connections to you? And do your beliefs also match with them, right? And so it's kind of a three-pronged thing. Because also, if you're targeting people solely based on wealth, it can be a bad idea, right? Because they have their favorite causes. If you get someone who is a major donor and you haven't already built up that relationship, they can come in and say things like, I want you to do this program. I want you to do that program. And you're like, oh, okay. Because you're a major donor, you're not a program person or the executive director or on the board. It can make people have interesting and not fantastic responses to the organization that are very colonial based, right? And based in how fundraising was built up, which is now what we are also trying to dismantle, and giving these donors power over organizations to do what they need to see as need to be done, even though they're not part of the community. They're not part of the people that do the direct service. Okay. Also, while major gifts are awesome, there is a downside to them as well. Because if your nonprofit relies too heavily on just one major donor, and that donor goes away, that donor moves, that donor passes, then you have a huge gap in your funding that becomes an emergency. Okay, so I would like you to remember that no one donor should make up more than 25% of your total income. So not one individual donor, not one foundation. It's how you start building more sustainable fundraising streams. And I know that it can start off like that. And then the goal in building your fundraising is that you diversify in funding a little bit more to have many more of those safety nets. Okay. So how do you get major donors? We're going to circle right back to finding donors. So we're acquiring and we're prospecting. We're doing those things. We are trying to find a person who will be a donor. And then donor retention. We are making sure that they stay with us, that they give a second gift and a third gift. We thank the donors, right? And it is all about building that relationship. Okay. Years ago, I worked with a small organization that received a huge gift. And it's unclear how this gift came about, but it did. The first week that they were a 501c3. And this gift could literally have funded them for 3 years. And they never thanked them. Okay. Not once. Not even a tax receipt, which is legally required. Nothing. Does anyone think that they gave again? Nope. You're right. And you can probably be sure that this donor also told their friends that the gift was not recognized in any way and that they had no idea what was done with the money. And so all of this builds: ask, thank, report, prospect, retain, thank. It is all of the things. Okay. And when you are talking with major donors, there are few relationships that can be as fulfilling, because you get to work with people who have the same beliefs and joys that you do. And it truly is, I mean, a joyful giving experience. And so when you're doing it, also, before you even go out to try to get major donors, and this is something that you do when you're prospecting and messaging, like Jing was just talking about, make sure that you have those impacts, those core purposes, and those elevator pitches handy, like from session 1. Okay. Next, I am going to mute myself. And Amir, are you there and potentially ready to talk for a few minutes on peer-to-peer fundraising?
Thank you. So crowd fundraising is why I'm here to talk to you about and I like to make my own definitions. I don't like other people's definitions. So I define crowd fundraising as a social networked phenomenon where we harness the power of you as the individual and networks to financially support causes dear to your heart. You're really essentially using the power of people. And as Betsy has articulated so efficiently all morning, relationships matter. And so crowd fundraising, when you think about using electronic technology, networks, social media, and to a much lesser extent, email campaigns, which are also effective, but not my preferred approach. Your reputation, the reputation of your organization are critical. So before I go any further, I just want to pause there and just talk about, because relationships matter, we know in relationships, how you are viewed or how your organization is viewed will significantly impact your capacity to do this emergent kind of very powerful fundraising approach. And so sometimes we have to craft messages. So if you've had organizational issues, if your nonprofit has had problems in the community, what are the strategies that you have to do to sort of reclaim the sense of authenticity or reclaim the notion of integrity and community? I'm sure you guys are fine, but I wanted to put that out there too, because sometimes things happen, community feelings get frayed, and the reputation of the organization or the reputation of particular key members are damaged, and it affects your ability to do this. So what does crowd fundraising require? Time, right? So this is not something you just want to do right quick. This is something you want to plan very carefully. Make the time at least a month realistically, to plan and engage your campaign if you want to generate revenue. What else? A vision. What are you trying to accomplish? A plan. What is your plan to accomplish it? So for example, the example I'll be giving today is that my organization has been doing Give Big for several years now. And the vision was to raise a particular dollar amount. And the plan was to use primarily Facebook and instant message, Facebook and Facebook Messenger to reach out to people in my own networks and in the networks of every member of my team throughout our organization, East African Community Services, about 22 staff persons and or volunteers that participated in this crowd fundraising strategy. So our plan was multi-tiered. It was like, what are you trying to accomplish? How are you going to do it? So we had to create a communications plan that laid out items to be done for the entire 30-day period, post messages that we want to craft. Very simple, 2-3 sentence messages to be posted on social media platforms, engaging people. And then my really personal area of personal passion and expertise is graphic design. So I created pretty branded marketing materials, collaterals. And what I mean by branded is there's a kind of professional, polished, memorable design that will be instantly recognized by people to look at it, right? They receive it, that it crosses their socials and their emails and or text messages. Social media accounts that you use, right? I noticed that a lot of people have Facebook accounts and they do not use them, or they use them once a year, or they use them just as for a messenger component. So it's important that you have socials that you use, whether that's LinkedIn, which is a business social media, whether that's Facebook, which is for older folk like me who are 35 to 65, or do you have Instagram, which is for the babies. It's important is that you use them. Email campaigns are also effective for older generations, but they are not necessarily quick responses. So social media and the online environment are ways in which you can craft crowdfunding raising campaigns that literally work within minutes. And we'll get to that in a minute. What else is required? Weekly postings. What else is required, as Betsy talked about, weekly thank you posting. We'll get to what that looks like in more detail shortly. I won't be before you very long. Best techniques. So Facebook is my go-to in terms of the socials, because it is the platform for the folk who have money. So my generation and older, up to my elders, 30 to 65, the folks with resources, right? Facebook Messenger is also ideal if you use it for direct acts to people you know and love. And back to the integrity piece, and back to Betsy's piece about relationships mattering, the direct ask is really ideal for people in your life, which is why I use Messenger. And more importantly, these people trust you and honor you as a person of integrity. And so they know you for your word. And so Facebook Messenger becomes ideal for short messaging. You know, my name is, hey, Betsy, you know, I haven't talked to you in a little while, but, you know, I'm doing this fundraiser for the kiddos at work. And, you know, we want to raise money to be able to support our preschool, which is having some trouble staying awake, right? Staying in operation. So Betsy, this imaginary person I just made up, knows me, knows my work. And actually, Betsy is actually really interested in preschool and early learning, at least the Betsy I just made up, right? And so I did a targeted ask by somebody who knows me, somebody who loves me, and somebody who is interested in the very thing that I'm recommending, right? So, and of course, moving on, email marketing to trusted audiences. Email marketing can work. It's much, much slower. It is not my preferred method of engagement. I prefer online social engagement, but I can, you know, constant contact, and what is the other one? MailChimp, mail campaigns can work, but they're much, much slower. In the long run, they can be ideal for to augment what you do on the socials, or vice versa, depending on your strategy. So I pioneered this idea of the social media tile. And what you're looking at is 2020 in community services. You'll notice we have two different logos on the screen. We just rebranded with our branding, our mantra, we are family always. Oh no, can you guys hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear me? I can't hear anybody. Can you respond? Because it says my internet went down.
Yeah, I can hear
You're
you
back
now.
now. You're back
Okay.
now. You were garbled, and now you're back.
Were you able to hear me talk about the best techniques as
Yes.
Facebook and Messenger? Okay.
Yes, but it got confusing when you pulled up the next slide.
Okay, great.
When
Thank
you went
you.
to your branding.
Okay, so this is my real area of expertise. And it is the construction of what you're looking at is what I call a social media tile. It is a very simple image for the particular campaign. The campaign is Give Big, the date, and help us empower our next generation. Our amazing kids are everything to us. And this is a tile that you would put into your social media, particularly Facebook, with a link to your giving campaign. If you look at this, it tells you everything within the very few seconds for a crowd fundraising campaign that you're doing. Just looking at the screen, let's just revisit it again. We have the organizational logo here. We have the actual giving campaign. We have the date. We have a heart. We have a child, which is going to capture the power of emotion, the emotive context. We have an ask, which is help us to empower our next generation. And we tie in the child to the emotive, our message, our amazing kids are everything to us. By working, and then we go back, help us to empower our next generation at the bottom by working hard to raise $5,000 for families impacted by COVID-19. This is the actual social media tile for the organization. And I put it on all of my socials. I send this, my personal strategy is to send this actually in the instant messenger to people, those personalized messages I talked to you about, to post it in all my socials, and again, particularly Facebook. And with a link, you can't see the link obviously on this Word document, but the link would allow people to give, right? Continuing, as you see here, I have a unique position as a designer to create tiles, right? So these tiles are for people who I personally engaged via Facebook Messenger or Facebook platform to give. They made a gift, and then I turned right around and got their permission to create a social media tile for them to post on their pages. And so I'm gonna give you an example of my nephew, Johnny. So Johnny is one of the kindest, most gentle souls I've ever met in my life. He is a giver. He is known as a giver. He's a solid community organizer. He's an anti-racist advocate. He's an anti-gentrification advocate. And he is known as a man of incredible integrity. And so I said, John, I think he gave $200 to my campaign. And I said, bro, can I create a social media tile with you, a picture of you on it with a quote on why you gave? Why did you give? And then he gave me this quote: "My love of community compels me to give to families in need." And thank you. I thanked him in this tile. You see, your donation helps. He takes this image and he posts it to his socials. And I will tell you that this strategy has worked. I think in that year we did 65,000, I think, in this year, 2020, for our Give Big campaign. And this strategy is one that most people do not use. And it is exponential. And so we that year we had maybe 10 or 15 people pumping it. But imagine if you can now, knowing what we know now, we would try to get 50 people to do this for us. And so the only thing for the organization that doesn't have a graphic designer is you can go, there are other platforms like Fiverr, Fiverr.com, that will design this kind of social media tile from you, and you outsource it all over the world, even in the developing world. And the template that you see before your screen will cost you more than $50 to develop. So this is a cost-effective way to do internet-based marketing communications, also known as crowd fundraising, also known as social marketing, and with the potential of making tons and tons of money. So let's just backtrack for a moment. I have the organizational ask. I post it to my page. My friends and family give. I then target my friends and family, asking for permission to create a custom tile with them, with their image, with a quote. I thank them on that graphic. They post it on their socials. They reach out to their family via Messenger, and then it becomes like a web of donations. Let's continue downwards. So next, of course, this is one of my favorite professors from grad school, Dr. Lauren Berliner. Of course, I reached her real quick. And she too gave, and she too says, I give because we're all connected, right? And so next, as you engage this online phenomenon, this online campaign, directly thank your donors. in person, on the phone, in Messenger, but also tag them in your social media posts and call them out by name and saying, like I did, thank you, Dr. Berliner, for your donation. It's going to make a really big difference. And then tell her to make sure it's shareable on her socials, particularly Facebook. But then all of her friends see what you see. And it's like, and then there's something about the human nature. So we are compelled to look out for each other. Going back in time to our hunter-gatherer backgrounds, we are, as a species, we survived in the earliest iterations and evolutions of humanity because we had each other's back. When I see you, for example, I'm going to pull somebody out. When I see Alex donate and it's on his social media page, I feel compelled to give as well. When I see Betsy donate, I feel compelled to give as well. And the not so pretty part of human nature is sometimes competition between people in social media happens. And they said, well, Jane Doe donated, so I'm not going to be outdone by her. And I will promise you that other people donate just because they don't want to feel like they want to get on the effervescence of emotional joy and warm feelings and good feelings. And so directly thank your donors, ask them to share the graphic with the link in it. Then as you do your individual campaign, update your social audiences. So in this case, I had a goal of 2020 of $2,600. By the way, this I blew way through my goal. I think I ended up doing like $4,000 or $5,000. But every time I kept updating the audience, when a donation came to me on my campaign, I created a graphic thanking them immediately onto my socials. And after about the 5th thank you to somebody else, a groundswell started happening between other people donating that I didn't even know. I was looking at the trail. I'm like, I don't have no idea who these people are, because the people who I was thanking and their people were donating, and then their people were donating. And so update your social audiences. Notice I say I only have $156 left. You'll be amazed how many people at the $156 moment, they want to be the person that puts you over the top, right? So let me see, what else do I have here? I think that was what I have. So this is my strategy that I invented in 2020. We use it again in 2021. We're about to use it again at the end of the year for our virtual gala. And this time we have about 75 people that will be doing it. And so we expect to make considerably more money. I think our target with this year was $100,000. We're aiming for $100,000 at the end of the year. By harnessing all the people we know to create these social media tiles, share it on the socials, message people, text people, and take advantage of the integrity and love that people have for them in community, to help to promote the campaign. So to recap here, crowdfundraising is creating a campaign and having everybody who loves you around you promote it for you and generate revenue for you. So I apologize to Betsy. I did not get this done in time. I'm gonna clean up this document and put it into a PowerPoint form for Betsy, which will be a lot more in depth for you. So, and then Betsy, you can send it out to all of the attendees. Because I know that I promise you that if you can get anywhere near 20 to 50 or 60 people helping you to do this, you will blow your own mind. You will not be able to believe how much money you've generated. So that's what I have so far. I hope that's helpful, and I'm able to, I'll put my email in the chat. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to help you through it. This is a technique that's really helpful for smaller budget organizations that don't have the capital for a marketing communications department. Happy to help, more to come.
Amir, thank you. You are amazing and inspiring, and thank you for sharing your, it was amazing. Thank you. And I always love listening to you talk. It's very fun. One thing I would totally add to Amir's is when you are saying like, okay, can you help me get over the $126 mark? You can also do this in terms of like, if your goal is, like 100 people give to X, Y, or Z, you can actually then you can mail out people or email or text them and say, will you be number 32? Will you be number 33? Will you be number 99? And people will write back to them and be like, yes, I will be number 99. And it doesn't matter like really what number you choose for them. I mean, it doesn't have to go in order, only you know. But when you are asked specifically, just like Amir was saying, and like, will you do this really specific thing? People get really jazzed about it. And yes, I will absolutely share this. Amir, you are amazing. Thank you.
There was one piece that I saw some questions. I was too excited to pay attention to the comments. If I can just respond to some of the comments in here. So once you have your template, once you have your template designed, it becomes far easier. I'm going to put a resource in here that everybody in this room should have. Remove.bg is a website. Remove.bg is a website that takes the background out of pictures within 5 seconds. As a graphic designer, let me tell you, I love this thing and I use it today. So it snatches the background out. If you look at the picture behind me, that picture was snatched out of my own picture, and it takes, it makes it very simple. So remove.bg is a really, really powerful tool to help, once you get your template together, you can snatch out the backgrounds and pictures and plop them into the template. And then you plop the image in there and you plop the quote in there and you're good to go. For me, it's hard to answer the question because I've been doing graphic design for 30 years. Wow. But for the layperson that has the tools, it shouldn't take no more than 7 minutes per graphic, per tile, once you have the information from your person. Was there anything else in here that I missed, Betsy, about questions? I don't think there was.
I don't think so, but
Okay.
when you send
Okay.
me your slide, Amir, put your email address on it so people know how to get in touch with you if they have more questions about peer-to-peer fundraising and the amazing way that you have done this with EACS.
One last piece, Betsy, and I will digress, is that courage. Please have courage. Some of us are like, I am not a people person, or I'm scared to ask people. But what I want to, the last piece I'll leave you with, and I know we're running out of time, is that, when I moved here from LA, I worked for a numismatic company, a rare coin company. We sold gold, precious silver and gold coins. And there's an old adage that says there's no such thing as a poor coin dealer. And so that myth was thrown on its head when the company folded. And I was here in the middle of a grad school program at UW, University of Washington, and I had no income. And I reached out to people around me. And this is where the seed of this whole phenomenon for me of crowd fundraising came from. I went on Facebook and said, you know what, I don't ask you guys for anything, but I'm struggling. And I raised $7,000 in 24 hours. And that taught me that integrity matters. And it taught me that people love me. And it taught me that if I'm living an honorable and ethical life, then when I reach out to my network, people will respond. So people love you, be empowered, be encouraged. They want to support you. So just take the step of having the courage to ask. That's all I'll leave you with.
Awesome. Thank you, Amir. Always an absolute pleasure. So we are going to move on and talk a little bit about collaborative fundraising. King County does some collaborative fundraising. You probably have seen some other funders that do collaborative fundraising. And so I did want to touch on this a little bit because sometimes you need to partner to be able to meet the requirements of a grant. And there are also other reasons to collaborate as well outside of the granting world. Like you might want to do a joint fundraiser or event to be able to use less resources on your own and have a broader reach than you could possibly do alone. So also kind of like the peer-to-peer, right? You're sharing out, you're getting new people, you're acquiring new donors, you're making new relationships. And some things that you should do to really talk about this is start collaborating now, okay? Find partners that you really, really trust. Trust is absolutely essential in partnering, especially if you have requirements that are data heavy, and then you're partnering with someone who's like, oh, I don't collect data. And you're like, okay, what are we supposed to do then? Because this is what we were supposed to be doing. So making sure that you have those open lines of communication, and trust, and don't be afraid to really lay out those expectations about what you are looking for in a collaborative fundraising, especially like in granting world. Okay. Things not to do: find a brand new partner 1 week before the grant is due and hope for the best, because sometimes you also need MOUs, different signed reports, shared budgets, things like that. And so you don't want a last minute emergency. Partnering with an organization you don't trust and waiting for the last minute. So really start collaborating now, and even identifying other partners, even other people who are on this call today, or who you were in session 1 with, who you were in a breakout room with. Be like, let's talk, because maybe this isn't something that we're thinking about right now. And in building those relationships, if something comes up next July, you can come back and be like, hey, remember we were talking about that, and I feel like we would work really well together because we have shared values and shared goals, or shared community in some way. Okay. So next, I'm going to pop over to year-end giving. So did you know that in 2020, only 37% of nonprofits sent out a year-end appeal? Only 37%, right? So if you don't send one out, somebody else absolutely will. Okay. And this is important because 30% of all charitable giving is done in December, and 12% of all annual donations happen in the last 3 days of the year. So if you don't do it, then somebody else will give money to somebody else, to a different organization that did ask, kind of going back to the why did you give? I was asked. Or through the peer-to-peer fundraising, because Amir gave, because Roxanne gave, because Jing gave, and I also want to be part of that, to be able to support my community and the causes that I share about. Okay. So there's not really an effective way to launch a year-end giving campaign without donors. Okay. So you do have to have a donor base. And if you even have a very small donor base, just like what Amir was just talking about, you can launch a peer-to-peer fundraising within your year-end giving campaign, right? To be able to expand your donor base through a very exciting time at the year end, right? So remembering that as soon as you get a gift, you have to thank, report. Ask, thank, report, repeat. Okay. So that's pretty compelling, right? The 30% of all charitable giving done in December. Oh, yes. Val, I see you have a raised hand.
Yes, thank you. My lighting is a little funky over here, so that's why I'm off camera. But this might be too in the weeds or too personal, but I'll throw it out here and you can tell me where it goes. I am Val Thomas Matson, executive producer of Look, Listen, and Learn TV. We're an early learning television show, Mr. Rogers' modern day version. And we do our big gala December. It's always the first Friday in December. That's our big signature gala. And I really have a hard time with figuring out how to do a year-end ask coming right off of our really big fundraiser in December. Just throwing that out there where you can find an answer for me, that'd be helpful. Or if it's too in the weeds, I can be contacted via Best Arts for Kids. Thank you.
So Val, thank you so much. And I actually feel like I've met you before. But maybe that's a conversation for a different day. Anyway, thank you for asking. And yes, sometimes it can be really difficult because of the way other galas are scheduled, because sometimes it's really hard to do it back to back. And I completely get that. And And that's why in a lot of like fundraising calendars, people really try to spread things out. So you're asking many different times per year. That said, I truly believe that once you have this gala and you have the gifts, if you thank and do some light reporting, you can ask again. Okay, it will feel uncomfortable for sure. And you can see how it goes, right? Because they're not going to fault you for asking again, as long as you have thanked them and reported a little bit for what the money's going to do, right? And I don't know, does anyone else have any great thoughts for Val on having the year-end gala in December, then going straight into year-end giving? It is a tough one, Val. I might actually think about it a little bit more and get back to you. But if anyone else has any thoughts, I would love to hear them. Roxanne, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I was thinking that I would, following the gala, report back to everyone. Here's how much we raised at the gala. You're amazing. Thank you so much, which I'm sure you already do, Val, but a big hearty thank you. It was wonderful. We had a blast. Here's what we're going to do with the money. And we'd love to raise another 10,000 to, which would enable us to not only do what we can do right now, thanks to the gala, but bring it up a level. And so we really would ask you to any of you that can, to stay with us here, and let's take the roof off of this thing, or however it is. That's the only way I can think of to place it so one so close to the other, because a lot of people will leave a gala and think, I really maybe could have given a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Some people overspend at a gala and are like, oh gosh, I'm going to hide from you folks for a year. But other folks still have some capacity that they left with. So
and not everyone goes to your gala. You might actually have quite a lot of supporters through your social media, through your email lists. As long as it's, really good, like, donor information, that just don't go to your event for a variety of reasons, that still might be interested in giving. And so if you segment your donors, which we're not going to get into here today, but if you do segment, you could always segment a message specifically to the folks that went to your gala, and using that message that Roxanne said, like, hey, you guys did this amazing thing, and now we still have this extra way to go. And then you could send out a different segmented message to the other folks who are not able to go to the event, with all of the wonderful messaging that you have created for your gala. Does that help even a little bit, Val?
Yes, it does. Because we actually did do an end of the year ask last year. I just felt horrible about it.
I know.
So just a little deeper contexting is helpful, but my development director would not let us go out of the year without doing that end of the year ask. I just feel some kind of way about it. It just seems like a lot.
Well, it might be an interesting conversation to have with your development team and your board later to see if December is really the best time to have that, or if it could be potentially moved to a different time, so you can have really specific other fundraising events that aren't overlapping so much.
One other thought is that you probably have some donors who you have a very deep relationship with. And if there are 2 or 3 that know you well and well, you could call and say, how was that for you when we sent out another ask? Was that too much? Can you give me your impression and your experience? It's just part of the beauty of having a deep relationship with some of your donors. Really,
absolutely. So when should you do your year-end giving? Really, you can start at any time. It's completely up to you. And a great launch date is Giving Tuesday. Some people really love Giving Tuesday because it's an expected giving day. Other people don't. And really, regardless how you feel about Giving Tuesday, it is a date when you can say, all right, let's go, year-end appeal. And so we'll do it from November 30th through 11:59 p.m. on December 31st. Okay. And you can really start planning this now. Okay. Oh, and you can do it social media, email, mailings, all of these different things, even just like Amir said, with the peer-to-peer fundraising. Okay. And I will be giving you a calendar as well. Oh, it's just a blue slide. Okay. In your packet is something called year-end giving. And here are 10 tips for writing it. And in the year-end giving sheet, there is a cheat sheet that you can say, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this, I didn't do this. Keep your paragraphs really short. Make sure your font is big. Bold, underline, and italics. Use the word you much, 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 much more than you use any we words or EACS or me or we, right? Because this really should be much more about the donor. Readability score. This is always a little bit harder. People don't love doing this. And it is part of the fundraising science, art and science of fundraising. You can just plop your text into the Flesch Kincaid scoring, which is available for free online. And what that really means is don't use a lot of jargon. You know, if your mom or dad or grandma doesn't know what you're talking about, you probably shouldn't put it in a year-end appeal. Okay. Always put in a PS, as it is one of the very first things read on any letter. Subject line, exclamation point. Add a photo or two. Remember, I was talking about photos earlier about people really like front on staring at the camera. You can have something like that, you know, or if you don't have people, that you can use artwork or, you know, something showing people without showing faces. You can also add a photo of yourself if you are the one sending out the letter to kind of create that name and face. Okay. Read it out loud to make sure it's conversational. You don't want something that's super academic, you know, or, you know, really formal language. Okay. And when you are building this, it can take some time, and you can, using the calendar, you can just keep putting in kind of almost like the same language about the impact, about your core mission, right? Even little bits of your elevator pitch, you can put into all of these things. And you should ask probably, depending how long your message is, an email message, you should ask directly or indirectly at least 3 times. Okay. What's interesting, a lot of people are not going to be doing this, is direct mailing. Did you know that a 4-page letter makes, it's like 60% more than a 1-page letter? It's crazy. And it's the science. There are some fundraising houses that do like A/B tests, and they have found that to be true. It's amazing and a lot of work to create a 4-page letter, which of course you would never put in email because who would ever read that? But it is pretty interesting. Okay. So you have that year-end thing where you can start building and use these as cheat sheet things as you are creating your Facebook messages, link it to Instagram, create emails, and use the calendar to really kind of to block out sending them out. Okay. You should probably have at least 10 to 15 social media posts. I mean, I would say one every day, really. And if that seems like a lot, go every other day. Make sure that you have a couple every single day in the last 3 days of the year, including emails. So your email and your social media the same time, because that's when really a lot of the giving occurs. Okay. And this should really help you craft those messages. Okay. And one thing I didn't put on here is make it time specific. People really like the urgency. And I think I have that as examples within the year-end giving thing. Like, you have 4 hours left to give. Will you give now? You have 2 days left of year-end giving. Will you give now? Because people are like, oh, I was going to give tomorrow. Oh, I should give now. I should give now. And it's part of that psychology piece of it again. It can be really fun, actually. And I hope everyone is able to pull up the year-end giving sheet. So the next thing, we have about 15 minutes left. And I want to talk about the calendar and then some grant prospecting stuff. Also within those files, you have a fundraising calendar template. Okay. And here is where we put it all together, right? You can't get where you're going without a plan, right? Everyone knows that. You'll just end up kind of doing some things, maybe not doing other things, not knowing who's doing what. And so it might seem like a really big thing to create a fundraising calendar, but it doesn't have to be, because you can really build it really systematically. Okay, so first, put in all your events for the whole year. Even if you don't know exactly when they're going to be, you can put, to be determined. Or when Give Big is going to be, when year-end giving is going to start, when your gala is, because it's the same every year, right? When X, Y, or Z house party is. Okay, so put in all of your events. Next, so that's the ask. Anyone know what's going to be next? Thinking. Okay, so then in your calendar, this is important, so you don't want to forget it. You have to schedule your thank yous. So you can figure out if, like, for after Give Big, you have a Give Big thanking meeting, where everyone gets cards to have handwritten notes, or you're doing the bombs, or you're making phone calls. And so you're scheduling that in so it doesn't get lost in the mix, right? And because also you want to know who's doing this. Is it all going to be you? That's a lot, right? And so this is a great time to pull in board members who are reluctant fundraisers to start really feeling the joy of all of this, right? So then after you put in your events, you say thank you, schedule how you're going to report. Are you sending a quarterly newsletter with different updates and pictures and new impact that you've had, or unexpected wonderfulness that has happened in your program? Pulling out those quotes again, right? So then after the reporting, don't schedule a next event until you have scheduled the event, thank, and report. Okay. Tell all of your donors what excellent and wonderful things have happened as a result of their gift, right? This is, it is easy to do. It can seem daunting, but use the calendar and just use this formula and it will seem a lot more attainable to figure out. Okay. And then you have a plan, you have who's going to do it, when it's going to happen. And then you can go into 2022 thinking, I've got this. And yeah, things might be shifted around or staff members might shift around, but you have a foundational plan in place that then you can tweak as needed, because let's face it, we're in nonprofits and it's life and COVID and a lot of things are going to shift. And that's okay too. The grant prospecting. This is something that I talked a little bit about before. Roxanne, do you still have that link to put in? Does anyone need the link again?
Which link?
The long grant prospecting
Yeah, I'll drop it back in, sure.
form.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you are interested in having me do some grant prospecting, fill out the form and I will get back to you. Okay. If you feel like I'm not ready for this and I want to still understand how to do this, because it can seem, it can absolutely seem a little daunting. You also have this sheet in your packet of documents. Here are 4 main grant prospecting like search engines. Okay, Grant Hub and Instrumental are also grants management systems. So what I mean by that is you can say, okay, I'm planning to do this, and you put it in a certain month and you put in a date that you want to submit it by. If you win it, you can put 1 and then you put in the amount. If you lost it, then you can still track it. So from year to year, you know which ones you have applied to, which ones you have won, which ones you have lost. They can also help you with reporting. Though I will say straight up, it is really hard to get a grants management system with everything that you need in it. It's really difficult. I have not found the golden star of grants management system that really takes you through the different project management of the grant lifecycle. And I believe that this technology is getting better every year. So I'm hopeful. Okay. A lot of these have 14-day trials. And so you could do it, you could see. Foundation Directory you can use for free at the Renton King County Library and the Seattle Public Library, or right now you can use it for free for 24 hours per month. And you just have to contact the library for that. That has typically been really hard for me to do because working in nonprofits, it's really hard to know when you have a 24 hours free that you can really just do this, or when you have enough time free just to be able to go sit at the library. And if you have people that are able to do this, they are good. Okay. And so when you are grant prospecting, you want to find funders who are a really good fit for you. Okay. That means if you really need money for general operating and not for your sweaters for chickens, don't look for funders who are like chicken lovers. Okay. You have to prioritize your needs, be as specific as possible. Okay. If it is for youth under the age of 5 in rural settings, who speak English as a second language, you can put all of those in all the different fields. Okay. If you leave it open and say, I just want to see all the funders, you're going to have like an ocean of funders who they're then going to have to spend a lot of time researching every single one of them to see if you are a possible fit. And so there is an ocean of funders out there. And what you really need is like a bucket full of funders who are a really great fit. Okay. Who you might not get funding from this year, but you definitely could in a different year as your programs grow. Okay. Once you have your list, research it. Make sure that the board hasn't changed from, okay, we only fund early childhood education to we now, because our board shifted, or every couple of years a new family member gets to choose what the priority is, we are only funding Meals on Wheels for seniors, right? So even if you have the list, you got to research it to make sure that you're still a fit, because sometimes organizations and foundations information can be outdated. Okay. Make sure that they fund in Washington. Okay. Your best bet for grant prospecting initially is focusing on local or regional funders. If you find, an ocean funder who's like, I fund everywhere, from, Tahiti to Iceland, like, wow, okay. I'm not sure if you are going to be a really good fit, because what we're doing is very community specific, and maybe, but that also then has to start the relationship. If they have a requirement, you should believe it. If they say you have to have a 501c3 for 5 years, you should do that. If they say a requirement is you have 990s from the past 4 years, you have to have all of those sorted out. Because there are many times where they will just throw your application out if you can't make the requirements. Okay. One way that you can get around this sometimes is talking to them and really starting the relationship. Okay. All fundraising is based on relationships. Call them up. I mean, even all of the people here, just like you have a relationship with Georgie and your BSK program managers, right? Tell them who you are if you've never met them. Use your elevator pitch, from session 1. Tell them why you think that you are a good fit and see what they say, right? Ask them about applying for the first time and what a good ask range is, right? If they say a good ask range for an initial grant would probably be about $10,000, don't ask for $1 million, because they'll be like, okay, I feel like we didn't quite reach an understanding of what was happening, right? And so you ask them, and so it's really, a collaborative relationship, okay? And then if you do get funded, what is the next thing that you have to do? Yep, thank and report. So we have, and that's really the end of my session today. And I know it was an exceptional amount of information. I really do understand this. And I feel so strongly about fundraising and the relationships and the process that that I wanted to go through all of them, at least in some way. So I know Roxanne has just put up the poll survey for the end of the session. And since we do have 5 minutes left, does anyone have any questions that I might be able to answer right now? Is there anything or that you want more clarification on, or heck, even if you wanted to brainstorm a little bit for what's going on in your organization? Yes, Michelle.
Do you have suggestions for ways to get board members interested in participating in fundraising?
Yes, I do. And I actually have a book that is specific to activities that board members can do to start getting more engaged. Michelle, I have your email address from the registration, and I would be happy to just send you a personal message with the name of that with that book. If anyone else would like that, I can send it to everybody. It's a pretty, yeah. Okay, I'll just send it along. It's a really fun book, and it with many different levels of, of ways to participate or things that might feel better for your organization, right? Because we know every organization and every group of people are really different. So Michelle, 100%, I will send that. I will send it to everybody. Jessica, I saw your hand as well. Danielle. Oh, I think you're muted.
So this is my dilemma. I am about to do the Boo Bash at the beach. It's a Halloween event. And I just got notice that it's on. Safeway just said, yes, let's do it. And so Halloween is 3 weeks away. And I have to raise $35,000 for this event. So there was some good information here, especially with Amir's presentation. That was like, okay, now I'm feeling a little more confident that I can do this in 3 weeks. But I'm learning like how the outreach piece, like how do you like get connected with the right people? Because a lot of grants you have to have in like weeks and weeks before you actually do an event. There's not many people that's going to give you money in like 3 weeks. Like, no, too late. So I just need some suggestions.
Danielle,
Now, I know crowdfunding. I know the crowdfunding. I'm going to definitely go for that, and I'm definitely going to use Amir's suggestion that he shared. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I would say getting sponsorships at this point would be almost impossible. I mean, almost impossible. And unless you already have some of those relationships built, right? You know, one way that you could do it, I mean, it may or may not help for right now, is if you know people that really are sharing kind of, you know, the belief and capacity that you might have access to, you can even say, hey, Roxanne, you know, I know that you work at Boeing. Would you mind connecting me with your corporate responsibility department? We are doing an event on Halloween, and we think that that the Boeing Foundation would be a really good fit. And it's really fast, but it would be, you know, it would be a really good connection. And so therefore, you're not really putting pressure on your person to be able to give, because there's also this old an adage. It's like, if you ask for advice, you get money. If you ask for money, you get advice. And so if you're asking,
Say that again. When you ask for advice, you get it.
No, if you ask for advice, you get money. If you ask for money, you get advice. And so if you have people on your board or in your community that may be connected in some way, shape, or form, you know, or maybe it's a spouse or a sibling or a best friend, you can ask for those connections and then call them and just say, this is last minute. We didn't know that we were going to be able to do it. And next time, I promise I will go through all of the different hoops for the 60 or 90 days or, you know, whatever the sponsorships are. And even if you don't get it, you could gain an individual donor. You could gain 2 or 3 individual donors from the person that you were asking for advice, and then the person at the foundation who might be like, yeah, it's like impossible timing. And if you make a really good case for your pitch and what you're doing, they might think, yeah, that is, I wish we really could fund that. And you might get money from a new individual donor. But yeah, 3 weeks is a really short amount of time. The peer-to-peer fundraising is probably the best way to go. And use your messaging. Use it. Impact, core purpose, elevator pitch. Tell your board, teach your board all these things. Give them talking points. Don't let people go off on their own to say things that then you have to like put out fires, because in 3 weeks, you don't have time to put out fires for things that people might be making up. I've worked with some boards before that they just go off on their own. You're like, oh no, please don't say that. So good luck. I feel you. I'm with you. And I think you've got this.
Yeah, it was up in the air. They were kind of like iffy if they wanted to because of the COVID mandate of fully vaccinated and mask and do we do it, do we not? How do we do it and stay safe? And so we finally came to agreement. Let's do it. Our kids need something fun, exciting, and just a trick or treat wonderland. And that's what I want to give them. So thank you so much for
Danielle,
this. I appreciate it.
I think you're in an interesting spot because everybody's wondering about what they can do for Halloween for kids. So I would think that it's possible that the stranger or the emerald would be really interested in helping you promote this. And so I'd reach out to local and BIPOC interested media and say, hey, we've got this awesome opportunity for kids coming right up. Could you help us promote it?
I got Emerald already. They're gonna do a story, but I'm gonna call strangers. So thank you so much.
Yeah, great. That'll be great. So I just want to say thank you all. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here with us. One of the great opportunities we have as RHL Consulting is we get to work with BSK and all of the wonderful organizations that are part of BSK. So thank you for everything you're doing in the community. We really appreciate you, and have a great time fundraising over the next year. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. I'll be sending out an email with the recording and the PowerPoint slides when they are ready, which will be in a few days.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, RHL Consulting.
Our pleasure. Glad to be here. Glad to be able to support organizations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, Val.
Good luck, Danielle.
I think.
Thank you.
Right. We'll all be
I
thinking
need
about you,
it.
Danielle.
Thank you.